The trouble with writing non-fiction instead of fiction, and the reason that people like Peter Carey and Thomas Keneally write fiction, is that when you write about real people, they turn up in your lounge room to complain. Just about every person in Over the Top with Jim turned up to see me, and one of them, of course, was the character from the book, my friend Jim Egorov, Dmitry Egorov, as he was when he arrived in my class age 9 as a Russian fleeing communism. And Jim knew I was writing the book, and he was living in England, and he rang up and said, "Lunn, you bastard boy, I want to read this manuscript before it's published so I can improve it." And I didn't want Jim improving it, so of course I didn't send it to him. So when it was published and it was being serialised nationally on the ABC, I was at home one day in my Queenslander house, and the whole house started to shake, and I thought, it's either a cyclone or Jim Egorov is running up the front stairs. And luckily I had a lattice gate on the veranda, and Jim was banging on the door, and I looked through the lattice and said, "Jim, what brings you to Brisbane?" And Jim said, "When the manuscript didn't arrive, Lunn, I knew it was from you. Open the door so I can punish you for your sins." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to open the door, Jim, if you're angry about the book." And he said, "It's all right, I'll be careful of your weak heart." And I said, "Jim, I haven't got a weak heart." And he said, "I'll soon fix that, mate. It's a long time since I hung someone out of a window." And Jim said that he'd been into a bookshop in Sydney to buy the book and they didn't have it. And he said he walked over to the call for the manager, and he went over and he said, "But I'm Jim." And they said, "We'll buy you one." And they sent someone down the road to buy a book, and he said there was a bloke spruiking books over on a platform to people. And so he said, I went over and I took the microphone off him. It was easy because he was so weak. And I plugged Hugh Lunn. I said, "He's so poor, his dogs have to go out and get their own food, so buy his book." And I said, "You can't say that to people, Jim." And anyway, he came in the lounge room, and of course we were just mucking around like we used to as school kids. And we're still friends today, more than 60 years after he walked into our school, Mary Immaculate Convent in Annerley. And I called him a communist pig, and he said, "You Australian donkey, I rubber your ears," and nearly rubbed my ears off.